Okay.
if
Yeah.
there's any that we don't want.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that
Mhm.
first of all, I'd like to hear your thoughts about what happened in the focus group.
Hmm. So I guess like there was the high level impression I got was that the two terminologies was kind of like is off mark, right? If we kind of like go back to like what you kind of like mentioned the last time when we spoke, I think
Yes.
it's kind of like standing out as very obvious, isn't it? It's almost like we have a few segments coming in, right? The financiers and the gamers, and then like the normal everyday people is like almost like this three segments, and then like the terminology that each of them understand is like very different.
Yes.
Yeah, this like became obvious when I sat and listened through the focus group. Yeah, that's the impression I had like going away from like the focus group itself.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anything else? Anything else?
Mm, like I would say some parts of like the gaming experience probably it's even though kind of like I spoke about it, it's still not very clear from the participants perspective that okay how the game actually work, right? That's one. And then let's see, it's almost like kind of trying to tackle two parts like this two-sided market immediately comes across as a little too challenging for them to kind of like grasp like conceptually, you know.
So going back to the three groups were crypto investors, gamers, and normal people. You said.
Normal like investors and professional like investors.
Okay, so differentiating between crypto investor and normal investors as two, you're separating them as two separate groups.
Yeah, like normal
That you
equity
see them.
investors and then crypto investors. And then you have like the professional investors that like literally like run quant models, right? Because there's like,
Yeah.
I think two of them there that day. Hmm.
Okay, so you said that you had an impression that people may not know how the game works, right? Is that what we have here?
Yeah, that part was not very clear.
Not clear on the part of them describing how the game works, right?
Yeah.
Like after it was explained to them, they were still you,
Mhm.
you still felt like some of them had problems understanding it.
Yeah. It's like there are too many
And
parts.
why too many parts? You think it's and is there any other reason other than too many parts?
Hmm. Actually, I'm not sure. Because like what gave me the impression was that Suhaimi at the start of the session actually like asked and prompted, like, actually, what exactly are we trying to build? Hmm. So that kind of like led me to like think, interesting. And then at the same time, right, what's interesting observation is that, well, Dita and Alex were able to accurately like describe what the game is about from their perspective. Hmm.
Right. So some people were able to, some people were not, and some people were unclear.
Yeah,
And then the people that did know what was going on, um, it seemed like one of them came on at the very end, right? And I don't remember their name, his name,
Alex.
but yeah, do you think that he gave an accurate description of what the game was?
Yeah, I think
Or was it still too high level? Was it still too bird's eye and rather than specific?
I would
Or
say
did he?
he came in at a bird's eye view level, right? Because until now, there's like really no concrete interface of how the game actually works, isn't it?
No concrete way for that they understand, right? Like
Yeah.
you see that there is a concrete game to be understood, and they don't clearly understand the game.
Or
Is
maybe
that correct?
there's really no concrete game yet because everything is still kind of like at a conceptual level, right?
For the project.
Yes, yes. The interface is
Okay.
not designed yet. I kind of like threw up like a Google form to like simulate that, and like some of the members like kind of looked at it and like played around with it, but the UI UX just sucks because it's just a Google form.
Right. And how many members are there that were looking?
That have looked at the form,
Yes.
I would say probably like 4 to 5 of them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So how many of these people have experience with product design or project design, project management?
So at the group, I would say really the only other person that really designed an interface before was probably Pris. No, there are like two, the Singaporean like Asian lady, Pris. She's like on one of the screens.
KRIS? C.
No, PRISS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you have someone on your team that is a marketer that is does has experience in full-time marketing for similar projects?
Marketing. Let me think about it.
And do you understand the value of having a marketer?
Yeah,
Someone
I
doing
do.
marketing?
Yeah, I do see like the value of marketer is like figuring out the channels, figuring out the value, figuring out the like messaging, and kind of go like kind of like it really depends on like what kind of marketer you're talking about, right? Kind of like performance marketer or like kind of like brand marketer or like kind of like yeah early stage like go to marketing like kind of marketer.
Right. And like a person who does marketing, even
Mhm.
if they're specific about, they have a specific focus, still has an understanding and the capability of
Yeah.
uh, handling any parts that are at least understanding and being able to break it down and communicate it, and then hire qualified individuals who are specialized in those areas. But
Mhm.
I guess the question goes back to: do you have someone who is has any marketing chops at all?
I would say Fatima has like a lot of experience in that direction. Yeah.
And she's, as I recall, she was like a behavior scientist. Is that
Yeah, she has like a training in
correct? And then
anthropology,
she's worked at training what?
has background PhD in anthropology.
PhD in uh, intro what? Sorry.
Anthropologist.
Oh, anthropologist.
Yeah.
And she's uh Paul,
Yeah, I know it's kind of
spelled
like
this
a,
wrong.
it's tricky to spell.
She's worked in marketing before. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, she has experience with that. And then there's Ain, who's not here. She has like experience with that as well. And then I think like
So two mark,
yeah.
but no one's specialized in it, right?
No. No
Okay,
one's like
okay.
specialized. Probably like another
Yes.
DAO member that's like potentially like joining us, like joining a DAO either today or tomorrow. She will have like some good experience. She's still like reading through like the white paper and the concept deck right now.
There's a UI paper,
Yeah, there's a white paper. Yeah.
the
Wait, yeah.
white paper. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so 2 to 3. Um, so
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna.
then if you're talking about like kind of like marketing, like promotion. Oh, actually there's Anika as well and Ryan. They're not like there. Like, they're not there in the focus group. They're kind of like outside.
So so my suggestion to you, because I work from a more UI UX and
Mm-hmm.
like graphics and art standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
I've I do my I do my own marketing when it's necessary, right? And I
Okay.
leverage individuals that are qual services and individuals who are more qualified than I am or who have more skill than I am in marketing
Mm-hmm.
to further my my what I'm trying to do. So what I'm suggesting is that right now, before you're talking about performance level
Yeah.
marketing, right? Trying to squeeze out margins or trying to maximize or optimize. I think you want to start with someone who has a good understanding of branding and broad concept marketing. So someone who so it's some you need to find someone who can clearly say yes, like this is an audience that is relevant, is we need to communicate to these individuals more, and then deprioritize individuals that may not be your segment, right? So, for example, like if you're talking about crypto investors and normal investors, and there may be a similarity in some terminology that would go well for these two individuals. And then let's just say that the through marketing analysis and
Mm-hmm.
through case studies and research, you find that gamers, this is hypothetical, gamers aren't the clientele. That's like 5% of the individuals that would actually launch your project into success. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're holding back your project because you're creating terminology that is trying to address gamers, and then in reality crypto investors and normal investors are who you should be focused on and your resources. So a marketer can clearly define and see and help explain and help show you that that is happening. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Because right now at this level, at this stage in time, performance is not something that is the issue. Right now, the issue is making sure that people can understand what is happening, and that is more along the lines of a branding type of marketing. And even it's something that is like not even specific to or just limited to branding, or that it's just branding, but that there's definitely a component of branding that is occurring here that
Hmm.
yeah that needs to be identified. And here this is what I wanted to sit down, because I haven't written the NFT document because it doesn't make sense for me to start creating guidelines for something that is ill-defined because of this issue. That's why I wanted to sit down with you and be like, okay, well who is handling the marketing side of this? Because then it gives a much clearer understanding of who we are trying to create NFTs for,
Uh,
and who are you trying to create the UI for, etc. Because if you don't know who you're creating for, or you're wasting your time creating for an audience that is just not relevant, then like I was saying before. And then so here, this is what I'm going to do right now. This is an important diagram that I wanted to show you. So um you have the
okay.
cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like writing this, and then you had the like sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had news, a good word for the last category, the three.
The last category, probably you could just like call it like macroeconomic and geopolitics, huh?
Macroeconomic,
Geopolitic trends.
geopolitical
Mhm.
trends.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. So right now, I would say that these are actually for individuals. These
Hmm.
are for with concerns that don't overlap with one another. So people who are concerned with macroeconomics, okay, so they do have some overlap, but that they I would say are not I would say that people who are interested in macroeconomics are concerned with geopolitical trends, but people who are concerned with geopolitical trends may not be necessarily interested in macroeconomics.
I
Would you agree with
see.
me on that?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
people who are interested in like the truth of news, like whether or not the insurrection really happened,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not there's really is COVID, right? They may not they're looking for news,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not concerned about how those impacts like the economics of the world. However, people who are concerned about geopolitical macroeconomics are going to be look like, okay, like how it has the supply chain been impacted by COVID,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. You see what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Before we get to that, so this is crypto currency. This is the sports and macroeconomics. Right now, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a product that and a service that encompasses the right three separate groups, one,
Mm.
two, and three.
Yeah, yeah.
What I would say you should look into and some back this up with marketing analysis, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that you should address these separately. You
Ah,
should create a product that does just deals with crypto,
okay.
right? And one that just deals with sports and one that just deals with this. Because, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
These two might be have some similarity, but I'll explain why. Is because you have a component of whether or not you want this to be the case. You do have a component of gambling involved when it comes to this category, sports.
That's true.
Okay. Now, this one, number three, it looks more like news, but then there necessarily isn't as much like hardcore gambling, you could say, you know, like there's might be some like some guesses gambling, but
Mhm.
there isn't like. And then I would say crypto is probably the next up on the gambling spectrum, but these are more along the lines. These are closer in terms of mentality and terminology as like investors and
Yes.
okay.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
So when you have this disparity, when you have people who are not necessarily people who are people
Mhm.
who are interested in sports, for example,
Yeah.
um, people who are into sports are really into sports.
Makes
It's
sense.
like interest, right,
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
is high. Uh, so if you are able then to segment this, let's just focus on sports right now, segment this group out, and then to create assets, right? UX, UI, graphics,
Mm.
NFTs, you know, utilizing the same technology and the same chain that you have, but
Mhm.
you create a branding that is specifically focused for sports,
I see.
then you can create like this
Mhm.
that is geared to this audience and they will love it.
Ah.
Okay. And there might be,
Mhm.
and you just make it all about, sports betting, all of that. And like, I know there's going to be like some issues with gambling and betting in certain countries and the regulations about that. But
Mhm.
that's not what I'm trying to address right now, right? Right now, I'm trying to address that you have this category within this, and your technology can work for this group, and you intend to bring them into the fold, and and therefore, I would say the same for this group, right?
Mhm.
So this group, how concerned are they about crypto? Maybe the macroeconomic group, but I would say let's just focus on geopolitical trends right now, right? And I would categorize or label this as news. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And what kind of news do you typically have traditional?
Hmm.
Sorry for the bad handwriting, but you have Reuters,
Yeah.
BBC, you have CNN, MSN, etc. Right? Media Corps. traditional news media corps, right?
Uh-huh.
And a lot of times it's people say, oh, these guys are lying, or these guys are lying, or these guys are lying, or whatever. But ultimately, if you have the prediction model, right, for the news to actually be true, and then you could give them a score for the reporters within this, then you have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's good. Within this space, then you have people aren't like people. If you just focus on sports, then that's great. Like you, in terms of your creation, like a separate small entity, a separate company within like umbrella. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
Facebook under Meta, or
Yeah. Yeah.
Google under Alphabet,
Yeah.
right? So you have so when you deal with news, I think that the people who are interested in news are more concerned about like the credibility,
That's true. That's true.
right? And they're more concerned about badges that deal with credibility, whereas badges here are more like the badges of like gamble of like let's say I was gonna say
Sports club,
gamblers
huh?
because hmm?
It's almost like the badges of sports clubs as well. Almost. When you think about it.
Yes, exactly in terms of graphics,
Hmm.
people who are like graphics that
Yeah.
deal with sporty type things,
Mhm.
fields, balls, like
Yeah.
um but and then crypto itself is like self-explanatory. That's like obviously you can have things that are geared toward investors within both spaces, and then you
Mhm.
have symbols that have to do with like
Yeah.
that makes sense to them, right? It
Yeah.
makes sense to everybody, but let's say that the money bags is relevant is relevant, like the badge, the image is relevant to both sports, but it may be macroeconomics, but maybe not necessarily for news, right? Because once people see the money bags thing for news, then they're gonna motives of the individual, like, oh, are you just trying to make money off of the news? And that's been a problem for a lot of these traditional media, is like they're guided or they're motivated by money. So
Mhm.
for the normal person, they're not seeing that the money is a monetary reward for predictions. They just
So,
see money, any type of badge of money involved
yeah.
with trying to influence politics, influence news,
Mhm.
things that are just negatively associated with it. So this problem will come up when you're trying to figure out which badges to make. And in
Yeah.
this case, like,
You're right.
do you see where I'm getting at here? Okay, so I would say like it's better to just focus. If you're going to start right now, focus on the technology. If it's crypto is the easiest, just focus on number one. Create assets that are just interesting to crypto
Yeah.
investors, normal investors, and then
And
create a separate product that's just sports. Create a separate product that's just news. Okay,
that,
and you can have macroeconomics within news, but just make it a news, more about news, because people who are interested in macroeconomics are going to want to look at the accurate predictions of your news to make their macroeconomic decisions.
that's
That's just
true.
what I'm assuming. I don't know if that's a whole truth, and that's why you would need someone who is an expert in both macroeconomics, an expert in marketing, expert in psychology, who well, maybe not psychology, but just someone
Hmm.
who would be give you a better advice about like whether or not how to handle these macroeconomics issues within the context of news. Because I still think that for the everyday layman, right, they can get sports. They may not get investments all the time,
Yeah.
right? They get sports. They don't always get. I'm going to call these normies.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
I'm going to say these are non-normies
Hmm.
for now. So these are normies,
Yeah.
but these are normies who are interested in sports. And then this is very normies,
Hmm.
very norm
I see. I get your point.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, and and then when you have right, like right now, I don't know who's in charge with the NFTs, or who has put in work already. And I feel like because there's like a lack of understanding of who has been involved with what, I feel like I don't want to overstep bounds about what people have created. But at the same
Okay.
time, there is like this actual need to make sure that there isn't just, hey, let's just create aliens for the sake of, oh, that's cool, right? There, like, that's where another marketing branding individual comes in. Like, do aliens make sense for these groups,
I
right? Does
see.
aliens make sense for sports? You
Eh,
know,
not
aliens
really.
make sense for news,
No,
right?
not really.
Crypto.
Yeah, I
And
get.
I will give you a list, and I will give you a list of what I have thought of, um, that is, I think would be relevant to
Yeah,
your groups. I'm bringing it up on my phone.
yeah.
So, because I wrote it on my phone. Okay. So what is interesting, I'm going to write them here.
Okay.
So I'm going to put a big X right there because I personally don't believe that it's, especially for news. Once you talk about aliens within news, they're talking about this whole conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I see where you're going
And
at.
like you should just look at some of these conspiracies that exist for them, and it's not good.
The Reddit, huh?
So
Uh-huh.
yeah, and like people who aren't even on Reddit, just like normies, will think there are conspiracy theories amongst um, non-Reddit. So,
Okay.
anyways, so crypto, I would say like existing currencies,
Uh-huh.
coins,
Yes.
okay, gems. I was
Uh-huh.
looking at gems,
Yeah.
and then I'm just gonna continue. Possibly gambling and casino,
Okay.
but that's possibly for sports. And then um, some that are less, so potions, but
Mm-hmm.
this is more for like gamers. I'm gonna put them down here.
All
Game
right. Mm-hmm.
potions, and then sparkles. Oops.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'm writing sparkles here and then smoke here
Mm-hmm.
is because a lot of what I'm writing down right now, this list, is non-specific to a type of body, face, and cultural individual. And when I talk about like humanoids and dog creatures, cat creatures, like
Mm-hmm.
there is no like need for this. Like this is just a distraction. If your story, you want to look at the story
Yeah.
of these. Like if your story involves cats, then you should have cat NFTs. If your story involves alien civilizations, you should have aliens. If
Okay.
your story involves crypto, you should have currencies,
Yeah.
coins, gems, money bags, like hats,
Yeah.
crowns.
Hmm.
These don't have faces, but they have like, one that I really like was binoculars,
Oh, that's good.
telescopes,
Yeah.
telescopes.
Uh-huh.
You can start looking at, this is like our distance, and this is very far.
I see.
And then you can start creating tiers, and then let's see,
Yeah.
magnifying glass.
Hmm. Actually, like now they've
Okay,
frame it like that. It makes a lot of sense going down this route, right? Because it's about true sight, right? True sight is true seeing, isn't it?
right, right. And so a very dangerous um, crossover would be the Illuminati. So this symbol right is, uh, people have a very a high mistrust for this group because they believe that there is a global
Oh,
cabal of individuals that is controlling everything like
okay.
this, right? This might be true, but you don't want your brand associated with this because but ultimately, this is a very, very good logo. Let's just say that there's nothing more like cool about this for TrueSight than this. But once it's, and I would say like if I were to just design a logo right now
Yeah,
without the existence of Illuminati or the conspiracies of such,
yeah.
I would have designed this. Okay, just letting you know, just letting you
Yeah,
know, it's such a good logo. It's such a good symbol.
I know.
But like at the same time, if you start using that, then you have the problems that come with it
Yeah.
because there's a group that already is like closely identified with this. It's just like how like Mickey, you can like I was just looking at the public domain of like Disney and Mickey and how Disney has been trying to control legislation to try to protect their brand, protect this, and people just it's done so well, done so for so long that people associate very closely that once they see they think immediately Mickey Mouse and they immediately think Disney, and the same thing will happen here.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
so anyways, back to this. So I think that to
Mhm.
deviate from that, then you have. I think that the name TrueSight is also very dangerous when it comes to this. But you already have it, so it's you can separate yourself from that as much as possible. I don't think it's a bad name. I just think there's possibilities that those issues will occur. Okay, so I like this. I like these group of assets
Makes sense, yeah.
because they don't involve mystical being, and then you can uh, also have like very cool variations of them. You can have binoculars that look pretty normal, and then
Yeah,
you can have really colorful binoculars with stripes and you know
yeah.
same thing with the telescopes and all that dots, like different colors, like different
Yeah.
variations, and these fit very well in like a circle,
Oh,
and
wow.
like that's important for like badges and like
Uh-huh.
telescopes. You can have
Yeah.
telescope and then magnifying glass. Like that's a very good one to like fit
Yeah.
inside of like a circle. So you have like these kind of assets will work. I was work really well for uh, news and crypto and sports. Um, like you could make something that's even more specialized for these groups, like completely separate assets that are more crypto related, for example. It's like these, instead of binoculars, magnifying glass, you could have something that's more like money related, like some kind of chart, some kind of like money badge, like a gem. You can have the diamond at the top, and then you have like
Mhm.
some gold coin, and then you have gold here, and then you have maybe silver,
Yeah.
then you have bronze, things like that. And
Yeah.
like let's just go here, and you have sports, you have medals, you have gold medal, silver medal,
Uh-huh.
but you just change it, you just or first place, second place, third
Uh,
place, the stands like one or one, two, three, things like that. So
mm.
these are exactly it, but I'm just saying that like you can start like differentiating if you have, especially if you have different
Like,
companies or a different identity that's focused on each one. And for news, I would say like news, like you can have like a reporter badge or some kind of thing. I think this right
mhm.
here, the
Yeah.
binoculars telescope, very far. I think it makes sense for the normie. It will make sense for to the normie, and it will be pretty good for news. Um,
Yeah.
I haven't, this is just stuff that was just right off the top of my head. And then another one that I think is good right now for, especially in the world of crypto or
Yeah.
like not crypto, technology is AI generated art.
Oh. Oh,
So then
that's
you can
nice.
start,
Yeah, I see.
so then you can have like a parameter or constraint, right?
Yeah.
I personally don't know how to do this, but like I know the what goes into it. You would want like someone who does the program who also is interested in art to create like the parameters could be like I want everything to be a circle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
or you want everything to be a square, or you want a triangle. But within these parameters, you can have like different like
Yeah.
AI generated shapes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like, and
Mm-hmm.
then these shapes could be in the shape of like a coin, right?
I see. I see.
But at the same time here, this is where I feel like I would kind of steer away from this
Uh-huh.
because one, there's no identity.
Ah, I see.
And then because if you have something sports, right, and you just have a bunch of abstract shape, like how did it would be more it would specialize in something that is very sports oriented
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to deal with sports, especially in like currency oriented, right?
I see.
And when you have a coin, it's just everybody is trying to create their own coin, their own token, all of that. So,
Yeah.
this is something to think about. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. I think it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could also take like things like the binocular, the magnifying glass, and then create a background. For example, let's just say the magnifying glass is like that, right?
Yeah.
So you could create like an AI generated background,
Oh, wow.
right? But
Uh,
that's just an extra step.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like that's an extra step because you can already create variations in the magnifying glass without resorting to using AI.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to use AI, I would just recommend focusing on just doing AI generated NFT
Yeah.
art.
It's almost like there's this library called TensorFlow, and if you depending on the parameter you throw in, right? Because of the
Mhm.
functions and the way they cast like the the color, you just get a whole bunch of different like patterns.
Right, exactly. And you can put in existing art. I can show you an NFT project that takes it's called the
Mm-hmm.
seed art, and then
Yeah.
from that art, like the computer will run some form of algorithm, and it will, Google has this, like they have like one where it's, um, it takes
Yeah.
Google images, it'll like blend them together and create like a new piece of art and all this other stuff. So
Mhm.
AI art exists. I just don't feel like it's necessary, and it has nothing. The story behind it, again, it
Hmm.
goes back to the story. What is the story behind the AI art? It's like, oh, there's like computers that can create art, right? It's like people, the normal everyday person is going to be like, oh, they just imagine like a robot sitting at like an easel with a paintbrush, and like this robot is painting. Like they're just like, this is what the everyday individual is going to think of when they think of
Yeah.
computer generated art. They don't see the algorithms, don't see the beauty of it. But if your story involves that
Uh-huh.
involves this there's a story about this robot who's creating art, then it's relevant, right? And
Hmm.
that's why I feel like this is more relevant, the objects of things that traditionally used to improve the analysis of our everyday world. I'm going to add microscope,
Yeah.
satellite telescope,
Even glasses, isn't it?
glasses, there you go, glasses.
That's all right. Actually, it's like
There's just a plethora.
yeah, it's like everyone wears glasses. Without glasses, you can't see, right? This is like TrueSight, right? It's like okay, oh, now I see. Yeah.
And so, right. And so, I mean, glasses is also sometimes associated with disability.
Oh,
So just keep that in mind. So that's why someone who has marketing experience, and like in my case, marketing and UI, UX and art experience, then
uh-huh.
like they'll be able to see this and explain it to you, and create design something that doesn't have some of these pitfalls.
Yeah.
Also, so hunter, the last thing I want to address upon is the hunter and punter
Mm-hmm.
terminology. Again, like we already talked about this being like
No, that's true.
not the optimal for a broad group, and also for some specific reasons. However, you can create hunter punter terminology for sports. You can create hunter punter terminology for crypto
Yeah.
and just investors in general. I think
Mm.
that that's something that has a turn because once you can split your project
Mm,
into these groups, then you can just create specialized hunter-punter terminologies for each separate group and not
yeah,
have to worry about creating something that tries to address all three groups at once.
makes sense. It's
Okay.
like actually now that you analyze it the way you kind of like it's being done, it almost makes sense. Like I think like our first like very first app should just be focused on like segment one, and then like just like roll it out and like then like the even the terminology is like clean, right? The experience is clean, the symbolism is clean, right? Is all consistent, right? There's no confusion, yeah. And then like even though like the underlying like blockchain and protocol could support all this tree, we should like kind of like create a separate
Yes.
like that like
Yeah, it's
decentralized
called
app.
reskinning.
Hmm?
Yes, exactly. Create a separate DAO that takes the same technology and just reskin it and rebrand it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Makes sense, no?
Hmm.
Or maybe even like have like the main DAO like governing this tree, and then like the sub
Yes.
DAO kind of like running this, and then we have like kind of like a one at the top, three at the bottom kind of like structure. So they are sub DAOs almost. So if you like
Right,
not
right.
really,
So
yeah.
go ahead.
So if you're not really interested in crypto, sure, man, don't like bother yourself with crypto. Just go to the spot style.
Yeah, and like if you're interested in both, it's like if you this is a problem for then you to think about because I'm
Mhm.
not like I'm not a technical um what was I going to say? I'm not a CTO, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't have a CTO experience, and then
Mhm.
I didn't build this project, and I don't know what the limitations are. I don't know what the architectural limitations are. I don't know, these are questions that I'm passing along to you for you,
Yeah.
then you to
Mhm.
think about what's best,
Yeah.
how to have like the over governing
Mhm.
model, and if you would like again like you want to return to someone who is good with marketing or and
Mhm.
me to start talking about hey like um
Mhm.
do you want currencies to pass in between these, right? So let's just say that someone who's really good with investing
Mhm.
has amassed a bunch of currency, and do you want and like credit, right, and reputation? Do you want this individual to go into sports because they have this already have this advantage of having this reputation and then making sports bets for people? No, right?
Mhm.
Like people who are skilled at crypto investing bets and has amassed credit and reputation there, I would not want them like making my sports bets just just because they have a reputation somewhere else doesn't mean that they're good sports bettors. I
Yeah.
want people who are good with sports betting to amass their own credentials, and then I want to follow people who are good at that.
It's almost like when you think about it, like three different separate chains altogether. No.
Right, the technology is the same, but the chain might be you might
Different.
want to think about it because if you have them being the same, you don't want them influencing each other. You could if
Oh,
there's a way to keep the same chain but not
yeah.
have like the tokens influence one another, then
Makes
that's what I would think. That's what I would consider.
yeah. It's
Okay, I
almost
hope
like
this was clear.
the three different coins, three different chains, three different depths. But the governance may be like, same committee, or like maybe like even totally different committee altogether.
You could have something where it's like someone who handles like the understanding of the technology and the governance
Yeah.
can have like a board of directors, for example, directors, just hypothetically,
Yeah.
and then let's say like two or three of them is focused on who are sports analysts, sports people who are really interested in a lot of experience in sports,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sports
Mm-hmm.
betting. And
Yeah.
the same thing with any of these other three. You want like the news, you want reporters and people who have like on this board of directors governance who specializes in sports. But then at the same time, you want someone who understands the technology sitting
Yeah.
on all boards because you don't want, like because everything is running off of the same
Yeah.
back end.
Or actually, even the way I would see it is like maybe like the management team for like this three dApps, right, would be like somewhat different. but maybe the members, there's like some cross pollination, because like the folks like building like the dApps out and the chain out, they're probably like the same folks, so they probably be sitting on like 3 different DAOs. Right?
Yes.
And at the end of the day, it's like when you think of DAO as a community, right? You kind of like want the people that actually like kind of like have the same mental model to come together to form the community. Is it? Because like when you have like 3 different communities,
Yes.
like 3 members from 3 different communities, like for example, we have Burning Man, and then you like bring people from the Catholic Church to come. It's like there's kind of, even though there might be some similarity, but there's going to be a little clash.
It's exactly. That's why I brought this up at the very beginning of our call. Was like, do you really want to specialize and spend your time and resources on trying to address a group that is a marginal improvement or a marginal percentage of who your real people are? Yeah,
actually,
and in this case, by separating them, you can do that.
Yeah, actually, then like we separated like this, it will actually, then the from my perspective, like the pursuing of this segments becomes easier, right? First, we like tackle the investors first, because that's where I've been like really so specialized in like all this time, right? And then after that, we move on to like geopolitical, like macroeconomy, and like that's it, because that's kind of like what I'm like really like focused on as well. It's kind of like really passionate about, and I see like huge problem over there, you know. Then like sport, yeah, maybe not. I mean, it's kind of like just there. And like even like when I look at it from the engineering perspective, the chains, like the protocol might be similar, right? But the implementation will be like slightly different because we're hitting different data sources, like oracles to validate the smart contract. So actually like separating them out into 3 different chains, right, makes the implementation cleaner. Experience-wise cleaner as well. More focused. I think it's a good point you like brought up like this up, you know.
Because I mean, you were already doing that. Let me just bring attention to the fact that you were already knew that these were 3 separate groups that you were trying to address. What I'm just pointing out is that you don't need to have one thing that addresses all 3. Just address them separately.
That's true. And then like with that, right, kind of like, okay, there's like that for just like crypto investor and investors, like then like the go-to-market becomes like simpler, you know, then the value proposition becomes simpler, right? And then like, then the terminology becomes simpler, right? Because like you borrow like terminology from like, you know, the investing world. Are you an analyst or are you a speculator? You're an analyst, great, go and analyze all the hell you want. You're a speculator, all right, just follow whatever analyst you like, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly, and those are terminologies that do not exist in sports, and that wouldn't work for the news.
Yeah, and then like the sports person, yeah, are you a handicapper or you're kind of like a speculator?
Or like I don't know. I guess they have their own terminology. I don't do sports betting, so but those terminologies exist. If you just walked into, if you did any search about sports betting, walk into a casino, they're gonna use those terminologies commonly, and you just repurpose them.
That's true. Then the experience, the communication, the story becomes even simpler to tell, right? Actually, that's really like helpful and insightful that you kind of like brought this up. I mean, it's like I was thinking, how the hell do I actually like do that? And then you just came in and say, hey, Gary, maybe you just look at it like that. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? Makes sense now, you know.
Yeah, and I'll share this with you. You know, like the handwriting isn't very good, but I can at least
nice
have this sent to you.
Yeah.
Should I email it to you?
Yeah, email it to me, and then kind of like share it with like the rest of the group as well. And it's like regarding like the whole alien civilization, all the past work and stuff like that. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's like all that is just like placeholder, you know. Like what we have like really done for like the NFT so far is just defining the mathematical model behind it. The rest, we just like kind of throw this card, kind of like change it.
Right. Like again, like I understand hierarchy when it comes to like projects, and people may not necessarily enjoy having their stuff messed with, you know.
Yeah, I get your point of view. Have you like seen this like NFT project called like the Million Pixel website?
No, what is it?
It's very interesting.
Million Pixel website. Oh.
it's like there's 1 million NFTs for sale. You buy it, each one costs like $1, and then like when you get that one NFT allows you to modify like the content of 1 pixel. You just go in and like modify the hell you want, and then some artwork are nice, they're capped, others they just like drawn over, and eventually you got like a really nice like crowdsourced artwork. Yeah.
Mm.
Now,
Yeah, there's a bunch of different
yeah,
gimmicks, you could say.
yeah,
That the art world is an experimental space, and that's why NFTs even exist in the first place, because people
yeah,
wanted to
and
create new
mhm,
things.
yeah. And the reason as to why I brought this up is because, well, it's like conceptually we're kind of like doing the same thing, right? Someone like threw up some idea. It's like, okay, some parts of it is nice, the rest not so. Someone just goes and draws over it.
Yeah, that's can be very chaotic and messy, to the point where no one gets anything done because everything keeps changing. You know,
That's
that's why
true.
guidelines are important to have sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna
Mhm.
Gmail this to. I want to get your email right again.
Gary Job
Mhm.
at either send it to gmail.com or truesight.me.
I'll send a TrueSight.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so I have you in here. I have you in here. Okay, cool.
Great. Uh-huh.
I'll relate by his notes. Diagram.
Mm-hmm.
Um, today's date,
Yeah,
which is the
nice.
18th.
Yeah.
So I'm heading to Texas.
When?
I'm heading out the door tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'll be on the road. I'll be on the road. I'm still having meetings and all of that. So just giving you a heads up that I'll be out there.
Okay.
Louisiana and all that.
Oh
So
wow, nice. Like, how's the beard thingy, man? It's like I saw you like with the French, the Spanish moss. I actually have like some of those in my car.
you have what?
I have like the Spanish moss hanging in my car.
Oh, nice, nice. Did you clean it first?
Yeah, it's like it stopped being scratch itchy, so I guess it's all clean. You should like keep some of those like for souvenir or something, you know.
Yeah, where did you get yours from?
Florida in one of the parks. It was kept there in my car, right? Then like one night I had this inspiration, all right, let's just create as big as a fire as I can and like walk into like the bushes with this flip-flop on. Oh my God, wrong decision, right? Next day is like, fuck, I was like itching all over for like two
Oh
straight
no.
weeks. Whew.
Do you see the bugs? They're like tiny, like mites.
You can't see
Or was
them,
it
man.
just
It just like suddenly you feel itching all over the place, like, oh, what the fuck just happened?
yeah, not fun.
No. So wait, when
Okay.
you back to California?
I'll be back in May. This would
Cool.
be.
I think I'll be back
Are
in
you gonna be back?
I'll be back for I think 10 days, beginning of May, and then I will need to go to Serbia maybe to actually like give a talk about our project, right? Because yeah, it's like this crypto conference, so they kind of like inviting people to kind of like share their projects. Like, okay, sure, yeah.
I'll be back on the 12th
Oh, dang,
of May, so you might be gone by then.
yeah,
Well, we could still have online, talks,
yeah,
and we can
yeah.
still, when we do cross paths, hoping like I can travel further. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, the whole, I had a trip to China planned in October, but I don't know if that's going to be possible anymore. Like, given the current trajectory of COVID, so I'm hoping
Yeah, it kind of
something.
like spun off control in China at the moment, man.
Right, right. So
Mhm.
little worried about having that trip happen. So who knows?
Yeah. Definitely, I would want to go visit China too myself. It's like I've been like meaning to like go explore like the whole like their Silicon like Valley that they kind of like setting up in southern China. That section is
Right.
interesting for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I know about it. I've never been there, and
Uh-huh.
I'm not tech enough to be able to
Uh-huh.
create value there.
Actually, Eddie, my assessment of you, I think you're like very strong and not on the engineering side, but you're like very strong in tech, right? Especially on the marketeer side and it's like marketing side and
Right.
The psychology and the symbolism and maybe even the UX side. Right? It's like don't discount that.
Yeah. Yeah, what I meant was like the hardware, like robotics and things that they would have there in South China. So the innovation is still here in the United States, from what I've seen so far. It's like all the ideas are still
Yeah,
relatively
yeah.
incubated and created here,
Uh-huh.
and that's where I got a lot of my skills from.
Yeah. It's like Dubai, after being here for like say 2 weeks, what I realized like mainly is Dubai is a lot like Singapore and when it's more like a market sales and market hub. So there's a lot of like specialists kind of like passing through, but there's really not a lot of them kind of like building up, setting up bases over here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just kind of like my impression so far, right? In terms of like talent pool, it's not very deep, not very wide.
Not very white, you said?
Not a lot
Not
of
very wide. Wide.
yeah,
Oh.
not very wide and not very deep, right? It's like yeah, that's like my impression. Uh-huh.
I mean, there's a lot of money that goes through there. People just throw money at things when they have money, but they don't necessarily understand things, or want to.
Yeah, it's like today I was like having a meeting with like the Dalverso guys, like some they were like talking about like the situation over here, right? It's like you kind of want to like create like something like the Bay Area, which Singapore kind of like did a little. That's because there's like this higher like level engineering institution that's kind of like there, and then you have this whole ecosystem forming around that, right? But right now, like Dubai only has money, no like higher education institution, and not a lot of like folks in the ecosystem that's like kind of like thinking like okay networks or thinking like technology or thinking about future trends. It's like
Right.
it's kind of like more like a kind of in and out kind of place, no?
I see. Transient. I mean, like that's how the country that place was even formed, right? There was really nothing there. It was just a
Oh,
desert. People come in because of it's just a glamour on the money, right? It's kind of like
yeah,
it reminds me of Vegas in a way,
yeah, it
where
is like
it's in the middle of the
Vegas.
desert. It serves no purpose other than to
Uh,
exist
uh,
for visiting, and like it's just sad that there's like slaves that just get brought in there, from like Southeast Asia and all of that. Just get or India. They just get kidnapped and they just work in Dubai.
yeah.
It's pretty bad. I mean,
Mhm.
there's bad things everywhere.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see.
Mhm.
What was I gonna? Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't remember what I'm gonna say, but
Yeah.
I think since I have to hop off the call,
Okay.
I just wanted to
Yeah. So I
wish you
guess next step on my side, I should like take what we have discussed today and like talk to someone with like a marketing background and get his or her input, and then like can I get a sense like what to do next? No, I think like I have like someone in mind like who I'm like spoke to like this afternoon. Maybe like can run it by her to get her inputs as well as like Fatima and Pris, and maybe like
yeah,
Jake, because like Jake has like a very
yeah.
strong marketing background.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's like I guess like that's the good thing about DAOs, right? There's like a lot of talents. You just have to figure out who is the one, and just like go and talk to them and say, okay, get some inputs, and then move on to like the next steps. Mhm.
Right. I mean, that's again, it's just I still find Dallas because if it gets too like any organization, if it gets too many cooks in the kitchen,
Mhm.
it starts getting spread thin, and then there starts to be like conflicting ideas about who is right because there isn't always necessarily one right way
That's
to
true.
do it. Like every way of doing something has its advantages and
Yeah,
disadvantages. And sometimes everybody thinks that they have it figured out, and then they bring it to market, and then it's the people that use it are the final indicator of whether or not it's true.
that's true.
Right. So
Makes sense. Makes sense.
I think we can only make our best educated decisions as much as possible.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
some things are just low high hanging fruit, you could say, just
Yeah.
much
Uh-huh.
clearer. And
Uh-huh.
so, like what we discussed today, I feel like it's not necessarily completely groundbreaking, but it's a shift in perspective that you may consider make your life easier and make your audience addressing your audience is much easier.
That's
And
true.
yeah,
That's true. That was like really helpful, man. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. This is what I do actually. Oh, I was going to tell you, I have an engineering background. I have a
Mhm.
operation systems engineering from Cornell. So engineering statistics
Oh,
is
nice.
what I studied. So I had a I don't implement it, but it's baked into me now, where I have an analytical
Mhm.
framework of how I approach artwork and how to create a proper flow. That's
Mhm.
where it translates very well into UX and UI, because there's a obvious input, or the user or the individual
Mhm.
coming in, and
Yeah.
then the processes that occur within, and then the exit of when they stop using it, and then trying to get them to return and use it again.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a system within that. And so
Mhm.
I have the ability to utilize that form of thinking and analysis and apply it to my visual acuity and how
Okay.
my visual abilities. That's where you're seeing where a lot of this is coming from.
Yeah, it's like it's a very structured and organized way to like tackle the problem. It's great.
Mhm. Right, and it can be quantified. That
That's
you can
true.
run tests, you can run A/B testing on it, and that's where a lot of where UX and UI comes from, and marketing comes from, and then taking that analysis and making a product much better. So I worked in those spaces as well, but within the concept of like art, as opposed to just creating art, which I've done before, where it's just,
Yeah.
and still do, where I just create art for the sake of myself and for the sake of self-expression, and that's great. Like then you have an audience that is very passionate about what you're doing, but it may not be necessarily the right approach for creating a product that is trying to reach a certain individual that isn't you, or a broad market.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. No?
Right. That's the
Cool.
difference between an artist and a designer.
Yeah, designer actually like takes like art and turns it into something functional that people can actually use, like a lot of people
It,
can use.
it tries to address a specific problem that
Hmm. Yeah,
is outside of, yeah, I mean, artists also have design problems that they address, but it's not necessarily the same um, kind of audience. Yeah.
makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
It's good talking to you, man.
Great chatting, man. Like very insightful inputs. Yeah, cool. Nice.
Good.
So
All
once
right.
I get the
Take
input,
care.
I'll follow up with you again. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Take care, Eddie. I'll see you back in the States. Bye.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Later.
See ya.